Today, I want to dive into the most important analysis or review an artist can possibly do when it comes to trying to find their ideal buyers. And that is going through the process of remembering, of focusing on where your existing buyers who've already purchased your work have come from. Where did they find your work? What did they say about your work? And by taking this information, we can actually then start to create content that we share online to talk to other buyers just like them. So, this is going to really change the way you show up online if you do this properly. And I think this is actually just an awesome thing to do every single year to remind yourself of the conversations, of the feedback, of the reason why people buy from you. Because those things, that information, is what we need to find more of those people. And so today I want to take you through a guide I've created. I've called it an ideal buyer marketing sheet, where we're actually going to go through some key questions for you to start digging into this information, reminding yourself of what feedback you've had, and then using that to create content to talk to those people who are like the buyers you've already had, who have the same love of art that you create, and to try and think about how you can use that messaging within your content to grab their attention. So, marketing is all about how do I get visible and get the intention of the people who I believe or I know will love my art. So, I'm going to jump into the guide or the worksheet, and we're going to go through these key questions. And by the end of this, you would have gone through the sheet and really honed in on where these people are, what they've said to you, what content you can create in order to try and talk to more people like that. And you'll be able to go away and actually start to create your content, or at least some of your content, with a different spin, with a different focus and messaging that talks directly to your ideal buyer. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so here's the worksheet, ideal buyer marketing worksheet for artists just like you. So this is about finding the people that are already out there, the people who already like what you create. So this is about going through a process to consider how you're creating your marketing content to make sure that they can find you. How are you creating content? Whether it's a reel with a great hook that talks to why, specifically something amazing about your art that you often get complimented on. How are you grabbing their attention? So the first step to this, who are your buyers and where are they? So just start to just jot down this information, because it will help you get clear on where you are currently spending your time and where you're currently spending a lot of your time marketing. So you might be trying to do Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, trying to keep up with all the things. But in reality, the buyers that buy from you are probably a certain demographic that you can hone in on and really figure out how you try and use those platforms as well as possible as a focus area. So think about who your buyers are so far. There's some little prompts there to try and get you to hone in about age group. It's really important when thinking about where you're going to put your efforts, because there are distinct changes with the age brackets of people who generally use certain apps, certain social media platforms. Where have they purchased your art from? So are you selling mainly from Instagram, from Etsy, from family, like just family events? Maybe you just had a little open studio and your family came over and purchased from you there. Is it referrals? Is it through your website, Etsy? So there's so many different places you could be selling your art right now, and I think that's important to really hone in on whether there's a pattern, a theme. What do they have in common? So what are their lifestyles, their values, their tastes, their occasion for buying? So are they buying? You can get a bit of a feel, right? You can get a bit of a feel for the person who will just spend $1,000 without thinking about it because they just love what you do. Who you can see spending $5,000 without thinking about it because they love what you do. So for me, for example, if I'm thinking about these things, my buyers are generally female or males buying for females. They generally are older. I would say my average buying age is 40, 45. probably even a bit older than that, maybe even 50. So the older age, people who buy my originals have money. You know, I'm not selling my art for a few $100s. I'm generally selling my art for a few thousand. So people have the budget to spend the money. And so based on that information, I can start to know that, well, Facebook is where those older people generally are. People in their 60s are generally not on TikTok. They're generally somewhere on Instagram, but not really. You know, there's quite distinct age brackets there that I've kind of given you a guide with. Are you putting on TikTok? Okay, you might be because you would like TikTok as a platform, but if it's 18 to 35-year-olds and most people buy from you at 50, then you're probably not going to find your ideal buyers from there. And Pinterest is another idea. Some of you may use Pinterest. I don't personally, but I know this can be another great platform. So this is about thinking about this part of the process is about thinking about where are you putting your energy, and based on maybe going through this process, where should you be putting your energy and where will you be putting your energy moving forward. So it's about committing and just starting to really figure out how to make it work for you. Not trying to do all the platforms at 50%. So go through that part of the process. It's going to start getting you thinking about where you've sold your art, and that will lead into kind of the next parts of this worksheet. So step 2, what have they said to you? And this is what I mean by that. So when you start to remember these sales, you know, we want to remember the conversations that you have. So this is going to be where you start to get some of the gold for content creation, right? You've kind of honed in on reminding yourself where these people have generally come from. You'll start to remember conversations, and now we're going to think about the exact words, both buyers and people who really admire your work, because you'll see themes and just admirers. You know, they'll tell you why they love it, and oh, one day I'll have some of your work because of this, because I love it for these reasons. So think about conversations you've had in person, maybe through messaging, comments on your posts. Write these notes down. There'll be common themes. And the second part here is what made these people actually take the plunge to buy. Because when you get somebody, especially buying an original work, you'll start to get more information from them, because it will be a more of a significant purchase for them. They'll talk about it more because this is a more special, a more significant action. And it will mean a lot to them. So, you know, for me, I've had a variety of stories, but generally my art has birds in it, bird lovers, or people who have felt like they have had a loved one come back as a bird, visits them every day ever since a loved one has passed. That's a very common one, interestingly. So there's a lot of threads that I get about, you know, people who buy my work and why they do, and there's always a personal connection there. There's always a personal connection. You'll have a story and they will have a personal story that connects with yours. So that's why the storytelling element is so important. Not only you sharing the story of what you're creating, but thinking about these connecting stories, which is bridging and bringing these people towards making the decision to buy. So write down those things. What was the final thing that made them just go, yeah, I've got to do it? Like, because I don't know about you, but I've generally always had these conversations with people. Some people will back and forth for a while and they'll be thinking about it, and then they're like, no, look, I have to have it because of this. You know, there'll be like a final thing that they share that's like the real clincher. And finally, what does owning your art mean to them? So is this a gift for somebody? Is it a memory? Is it an investment? Is it something that they're excited to share with family at the dinner table? What are they telling you? So this is getting quite specific, but these things, again, once you start to write, this is going to be like, this is content creation right now, okay? So I'll show you how this will work in the sense of turning this into content shortly. But this information here is so valuable. So valuable. And we need to keep reminding ourselves of this, what we're getting told, so we can use it. How do we use it? We're going to turn their words into your content. So in the last section, sorry, that should say take 3 phrases from section 2. I'll update that in the worksheet. But rewrite them as caption hooks. Okay, so what I mean by that is when you see a reel on Instagram, there will generally be some words generally. As a hook, it will say something that grabs your attention. That is what a hook is, okay? This is what a lot of artists just either don't do at all or don't do well. They don't write something that stops people in their tracks and makes them go, oh, what's this about? So it's a combination of the video grabbing their attention and the hook grabbing their attention. And I really challenge you to trial lots of different things with the hooks. Okay, you can see what works for other artists, use your own version of what's working for that artist. Now you can use AI to help you with this. And what I mean by that is don't say to AI, I make this art, can you give me 10 hooks? No, we want to be more specific. So I've given you an example here. If somebody has said in the feedback that you've had, this painting made me feel really calm, and I want to have that in my living room so I feel calm every day. So what you will put into AI using Claude, which I recommend as an AI tool to give you these ideas, is you can literally say to that platform, I've had all this feedback, you list the feedback. Can you help me create some really great hooks to use in my social media captions, social media reels, to generate a lot of, engagement and interest. So this is just an example of what it might, either you can make up. If you don't want to use AI, fine. It will help you though massively, and you'll get 50 different options to use in your content. So I do highly recommend using these tools that are available to us. But as an example, what made me feel calm is turned into, this piece was made for the wall you sink into at the end of the day. It's like a feeling. You're describing the feeling. And so it might be you like looking at this piece of art, kind of looking at your final piece, or, holding up your final piece. You might be doing the spin, the classic spin we see every artist do where they unveil the spin. You can do that spin every single week with a new caption that grabs people's attention. And in fact, unveiling your art with a spin with this particular caption would be perfect, because people will be like, oh, what's coming here? This piece is made for the wall I sing to at the end of the day. What is that going to look like? So this is what we're trying to create, really enticing hooks that capture people, and the people who are looking for something really calming at the end of their day. So really think about the stories that you tell that will speak directly into your buyer's world. So just this is about what I meant before by bridging the content. So you're going to write some ideas here around hooks, and the captions of the description within the reel, by the way. So you'll also do that as well. But you'll write the hooks here within the first question in relation to the feedback you've had. And then what I'm suggesting you do in the second instance here is write down the stories that relate to your ideal buyer. So, for example, if you've had people say, it makes me feel calm, it makes me feel this, well, I'm sure you're probably going to relate to that, because there's generally always synchronicity in that. So how can you use your stories that use some of the language you've received from your buyers as feedback? And just as a starter at the end here, write one post idea that uses the buyer's feedback or story as the centerpiece. So just get used to the idea of translating all this, great content and great ideas into an idea for a post. Okay, so the final piece of this puzzle is planning your content around your ideal buyer. So we've gone through the process now of actually getting some really great information, feedback, combined with the stories that you hold around your art that, bridges, as is probably very Okay, so the final step is planning your content around your buyer. So now you've actually gone through the process of collating this feedback and really reminding yourself of the key reasons why people have bought for you or love what you do. We can actually now start to use that to create 3 really easy content ideas for you every single week. So if you create 3 core themes weekly, so say these are called content pillars. So every week you have a pillar and you're going to talk to one of those. This is a great way to break down your content every week. If you just have a goal of posting 3 times a week, this is ideal. Like, you can just get it done. by doing this, right? So an example of a pillar might be the story behind your work. You know, what is the story, why you created your work? And, you know, again, weaving in some of that feedback that you've already received. Behind the scenes process, you actually creating the work. And as as you're kind of got that content of you creating it, you can add in a hook that talks to the feedback that you've had from somebody, right? And then finally, another idea is, what does it do for a space or for your life? So in other words, what is it like owning your art? What will you feel if somebody walks in and is or sitting there having a cup of tea with your art on their walls? What is the feeling they get? So you have these ideas of creating the content, the video, generally we're going to be talking about videos because we know videos are doing much, much better than static photos. But if you have these pillars, these ideas to create some content that you can then weave in with these great hooks that you've generated from all your ideal buyer feedback, you're starting to create some very, very solid content every week that's going to give you consistency, it's going to give you direction, and it's going to talk to your ideal buyer, which is what we really want. Now, you can mix this up every week, but if you have these pillars every week, these are the 3 things I do every week in this kind of these categories, and I just have a different piece of content that talks to that, you'll start to feel very confident about creating content that's really going to convert very well and start talking to the people you really want to be getting the attention of. So just finally around planning your content, the one thing you want to keep doing, and hopefully this process has made you realize the value of it, is keep getting feedback, keep getting information from the people buying from you. So if you haven't done this for a while, and I'm somebody who's in this camp, I really need to follow up with all my buyers over the last year. Okay, so how could you incentivize all your buyers just to send you something, maybe answer 2 questions or just send you a paragraph about what it's meant to them? And you could say, look, I'm going to give you a $20 voucher or a $50 voucher if you can give me this feedback. Your feedback's so valuable to me, and this is a gift I'd like to give to you in return. Really great incentive to get lots of feedback. You can ask in DMs or in polls. So if you're talking to people about your art, you can actually just ask questions, like, what does this make, you said you like this piece of art, or even a response to a comment on a reel. What speaks to you? Why do you like it? Tell me more. I'm really interested to know what you think and feel about it. So you can constantly be getting more feedback, more information that you can turn into content all the time. And this is what good marketers do in bigger companies. They're constantly trying to get the ideal buyer feedback information to then turn it into more content that will talk to them. And finally, just a little prompt for you for the next 30 days. Write a sentence about your intention to go through this process. So how am I going to talk to my ideal buyer, and what am I going to make them feel? What do I want to make them feel with this content that I'm going to try? And this will be new for many people, and I really highly recommend, and I'm really trying to get into the habit of this myself this year, posting more and trying more. Some of it will flop, some of it will do well, some of it will give you lots of comments, but this is intel. Every reel you put up is like buying a lottery ticket. You might get more from it than you realize. So the more tickets you buy, the more chance you have to win, i.e. more people to see your work, the right people to see your work. So please stop fearing trying to post different content and trying new things. It is honestly the breakthrough that you're waiting to have by doing this. And just final note, you are not talking to everybody when it comes to this kind of content, right? We're not trying to go viral and find everybody, okay? We're trying to be very specific, really hone in here. Doesn't mean all of your content will be like this. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you would be amiss to not really think about how you create at least 1 to 2 pieces of content every week that does try and talk to your ideal buyer. You are trying to talk to the person who already loves what you do, but they haven't found you yet. That's what this is about. That's what this process is about. So using the language your buyers use, the things they think in their head, so that when they see what you've written, it immediately resonates and relates. We want to stop the scroll. We want to get them looking at what you're doing. Okay, I hope you found this super useful. I promise you this is an incredibly valuable process, and if you start to do this regularly, you are going to find you create content easier, and you're going to find you create content that's much more relatable and what's the word, appealing to your ideal buyers. Okay, let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. As always, I put up a video like this every week, and I know you're going to get heaps more from the information that's coming in the next few months. All right, take care. See you soon.